You're listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. Each week, your host, Polly Requa, interviews veterinarians and individuals in the pet industry from across the nation answering pet questions. Bark and Wag podcast is produced weekly for your enjoyment, and show notes can be found at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. That's BARKNWAG.com. Please remember to subscribe to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. Bark and Wag is dedicated to protecting our dogs through advocacy, education, and supporting like-minded dog lovers by selling custom pet products. Bark and Wag is excited to announce our new partnership with a Colorado hemp farm to produce a line of CBD products for your pets. Bark and Wag has CBD pet tincture available in 300, 750, 1200, and 2400 milligrams. Bark and Wag CBD is pet safe, no THC, it's made in the USA, and is CO2 extracted. Please check out Bark and Wag's website, barkandwag.com. That is BARK, the letter N, WAG.com, to see our line of CBD and awesome merchandise. We love pooch ideas for podcasts and merchandise, so anytime send an email to Polly at barkandwag.com with your suggestions.
Welcome to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. I'm your host, Polly Requa. Today we have Bob Bryant, co-founder of Mission Canine Rescue, which is a working dog rescue located in Houston, Texas. Mission Canine has saved more than 1,200 military, contract, and police dogs while reuniting over 600 with their former handlers. Wow, what a great mission. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you for that. And just to bump our numbers a little bit, we're up to over 1,300 dogs rescued at this point, and 654 of those dogs reunited with handlers. And in the past 10 years, we've spent over $2 million on veterinary care for the dogs that have served.
Oh, wow. Well, all of you and your volunteers wear capes, so that's just amazing. So tell us about Mission Canine Rescue.
Mission Canine Rescue is an organization, a 501c3 United States-based nonprofit that works worldwide, and our mission is to rescue, reunite, rehome, rehabilitate, and repair any retired working dog that served mankind in some capacity. For rescue, just about all contract working dogs, by the way, are privately owned dogs, trained the same as military dogs, as well as MWDs or other working dogs that might need our help, we'll rescue them. We're committed to saving them and giving them retirement they deserve, and that's whether it's bringing them back from overseas or rescuing them out of a poor stateside environment. We will reunite any working dog that has a handler that wants it and has proven that they're the right home. Handlers do get first preference, and we'll see to it that the dog is transported and reunited with the handler. For rehoming any dog that does not have a designated handler, we'll work to find the perfect home for that dog. In the rehabilitation aspect, these dogs are in situations that cause them severe anxiety, stress. Many retire with PTSD, and they need time with us to decompress and reintegrate. And we work with these dogs to make them suitable for adoption. And in the repair category, the dogs train like professional athletes all their lives. When they retire, some of these dogs have extensive medical issues that can become quite costly. Since they don't receive retirement benefits, and we can talk about that in a second, we provide all their veterinary needs while they're in our care. That's what we do.
Wow. And so when does a military, contract, or police canine retire?
When the dog exhibits signs of injury or non-workability. Some dogs just get tired when they're 8 or 9 years old and they really don't want to work that hard. They weren't, nobody asked them if they wanted to work in the first place.
Yeah,
but normally it's a lowering of work drive or injury, unfortunately. We see normally that dogs retire between 8 and 10 years of age. We've seen some as young as 5, one as old as 12.
That's awesome. So when is the National PTSD Awareness Month?
It's in June of 2024 this year.
Okay. And how do you find, so when you have a dog that does retire and comes into your program, how do you find the dog's perfect home?
Well, in many cases, if they're a retired military working dog, Their handlers will reach out when the dog is deemed as excess by the military and goes through the retirement process. We'll contact their kennel master wherever they are in the world, and we'll make arrangements to transport the dog. In some cases these days, the military has helped in transferring some dogs, not all of them, back to the United States. It just kind of depends on what they've got going on, but we still wind up having to fund the cost of overseas transports, even for military dogs. Now, please expound on your question. I forgot a little bit of what you just asked, and I want to make sure that I answered it correctly.
Yeah, I just was wondering let's say that the handler is still going to be in the military and traveling a lot and not able to take the dog. So how do you find homes in the United States?
Well, good question. First of all, what you may not know is that a military working dog can actually have up to 5 handlers during their career, and that the military themselves determine which handler gets to take the dog when the dog is retired. In the case you mentioned, if you have a soldier who is still on active duty, he may not be the best one for that dog. Another handler may be that's taking care of the dog, so they are given to another handler. And in many cases, handlers cooperate and work together so that they can still visit and see their dog in retirement after, the soldier themselves has retired, exited the military.
Sure. And then also could I ever
Yes,
take in
you
the military? Can. Okay.
Absolutely. Any dog that does not have a designated handler or doesn't have a handler that's able to take them. Let's say you've got a dog that has patrol training. Let's say the dog's basically borderline psycho, loves to destroy toys, stuffed animals. You've got a handler with a small child at home who also loves to play with stuffed animals. That's a recipe for disaster.
Sure.
So in those cases, we will adopt the dog, and the handler would know, who the dog goes to. Or if it's a contract dog, many of those dogs don't have designated handlers. We invite the public at large in the United States. We don't operate outside of the United States for adoption, and the reason is because somebody always asks that other countries, and that's Canada included, will not respect our adoption contracts. If we have somebody that doesn't take care of a dog and we have to pull that dog and the dog's outside of the United States, we can't touch it. So we adopt 2 United States citizens living in the United States. We ask that you can apply on our website, missionk9rescue.org, under the Adopt link. We ask that you not have a ton of other animals in your family, because the majority of working dogs aren't friendly to other dogs. You might have some that are reactive to certain situations, and we thoroughly vet our adopters. And the main thing we want to make sure of is that, first of all, they can afford the cost of veterinary care. Senior dogs require more expensive vet care more often than, younger dogs, and we don't want the dog to suffer due to lack of funds. Also, we don't want the dog to be at home all day alone or stuck in a backyard somewhere. If you don't have time to spend time, and I mean a good bit of time, with your retired working dog, please find another dog.
Well, and also just in general, there's a lot of people that should not be dog owners.
This is true.
Whether they're military or not. So
I won't say I've seen them all, but I've seen most of them.
Yeah. So interesting. When does the military contact you, or how do you find out that there's a dog that is about to be retired?
In the case of military working dogs, 99% of the time, their handler will reach out and say, hey, my dog's going to be declared as excess. Can you guys help me get him in? And the reason why they ask us is most corporals in the United States Army, Marines, or Air Force or Navy, they don't have $3,000 to $6,000 to bring a dog home from overseas. They simply can't afford it, so we step in for them. Now, in some cases, the kennel masters at the bases will reach out and say, hey, we've got MWD Bruno. He's going to retire. Can you guys help us? So between the military and the handlers, we find out. Same thing with contractors. They reach out to us when they have dogs that are ready to retire. And then, for instance, we have 5 mine detection dogs that will be hopefully returning from Bosnia sometime later in this month.
Interesting. So when the military person comes back, the dog does not come back?
No, the dogs can have up to 5 handlers. If it's first handler,
Oh,
you got
I
a
see.
you got a
Okay.
2-year-old dog. The guy
Okay.
serves 4 years. The dog's going to be 6. He's not ready to retire. And
Oh,
unfortunately, the handlers realize this going into it, but still, there's a bond there, and it's a very difficult separation. I wish they would pair them with a sole handler, retire them after a certain amount of set service, and not wait
yeah.
till they're incapacitated to determine them, unfit for work.
Yeah, right. Right. Oh, that's a good point. So, how can listeners help your mission?
To be quite candid, the nature of a nonprofit organization is to have its hand stuck out and ask for money. But in doing that, I will point out that out of every dollar given, 93 cents out of that dollar goes directly to our work. Nobody's taking first-class trips, staying in fancy hotels, or driving, high-end Mercedes. We're just normal people. My partners are 2 extremely hardworking females that they drive all over the country in a van. They sleep in roadside parks with these dogs some night. We need funding this year. Initially, we need to bring these Bosnia dogs home. We have a number of dogs that need medical care. We have a TSA dog, a Springer, not a Springer Spaniel, a German short-haired pointer that was retired for having seizures. And we're trying to get this dog under control. And we've spent $7,000 on him so far. And some people ask us, well, why don't you just put the dog down? It's simple. That dog deserves the opportunity at a decent life in retirement after giving their entire lives for something they never asked to do. So financial donations are extremely important to us. Or if you have someone who wants to help do some fundraising for us, maybe you can't afford it, but you know people that can, reach out. We don't have a lot of hands-on work with the dogs for non-certified handlers, just due to their nature. Some dogs can be aggressive, and we have a very highly trained kennel staff and vet tech that work with all our dogs down at our ranch in the Houston area.
And how do listeners get a hold of Mission Canine Rescue?
The easiest way to get a hold of us, if they want to remember the email address BARK, that's BARK, at mission, the letter K, the number 9, rescue.org.
Wonderful. And I'll put all the information in the show notes, and we certainly appreciate everything you're doing and look forward to having you back on the podcast.
You're awesome. Thanks so much for having us on. If you want to check me this summer, I'll have some interesting information to share, but you'll have to wait till then. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you again.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address, www.barkandwag.com, to your friends and other pet owners. Have a pressing question for a veterinarian? Ask your question at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. This has been a KFR production. Join us next time for another edition of Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk.